Susan, have you ever purchased some of those wonderful decorative threads that are on the market and then gotten home and realized you can't put them through the needle of your machine?
I've purchased most of them. I think I need a support group for threads.
There are some beautiful ones out there, but we can use them on our machine. Even though they don't fit through a needle, I can use them in my bobbin case. These are some threads that I've purchased. This is the hand-dyed silk thread.
It's beautiful.
Kind of heavy. And then the ribbon floss.
Very shiny.
Which is easy to find. And then the Razzle Dazzle thread by Superior.
It's one of my favorites when you just want to add a little bit of sparkle.
It's really, really nice in your bobbin case. I've done some stitching here. We can do free motion work.
So that's with the feed dogs down, and you're moving the fabric.
And I've actually on this piece used the BERNINA stitch regulator. Okay. Or we can do some of our decorative stitches, pre-programmed stitches. You want to make sure that you stick with some of the open stitches because of the thickness of the thread. Let's just take a look at some of those stitches that I've done with the thread that I showed you earlier. This is the hand-dyed silk. You can see how heavy that thread is, and yet how nicely it works in my bobbin case.
It almost looks like hand embroidery stitches.
Exactly, which is one reason I like it. The ribbon floss, which is a flat, more like a flat trim than a thread. And then, of course, the Razzle Dazzle. What you might also notice is that this stitch and this stitch have changed. I have used the pattern elongation in my machine to get a different looking stitch, even though I'm using the same stitch.
This would be great for Crazy Patch.
Yes. I recommend that anybody trying this technique purchase a spare bobbin case.
I can tell you from experience, it's not loosening the tension for your technique you're doing now, it's getting it back to sewing that's the problem.
And that's why you want that additional bobbin case. Put the filled bobbin in the bobbin case and thread it as you normally would. And then I like to start playing with this screw. Lefty-loosey, so I'm going to turn this screw to the left. I do it by quarter turns so that I don't back this screw out too far.
And the looseness is really determined by what you want the stitch to look like, correct?
Right, by the feel. And what you really need to do is play with this. That's why we call it bobbin play. I'm going to insert my bobbin case. And then I definitely want to see that thread. So I do want to pull it up from my bobbin case. Now, what you have to remember when you work with thread in your bobbin case is that I have to work from the back side. It's an upside down world when we use
I think that's part of the fun because you don't see the result until you turn it back over.
Correct. This is a block that I've done. All the fabric is fused down, but I have straight stitched around the block only so that it is a guide for me on the back side.
So it's around the edges of the shape?
Yes.
Okay.
When I turn this block over, I will then be able to see that thread path. Now, when I stitched this block, I wasn't thinking because I used black thread on my bobbin.
So you could not see it?
I could not see it. So I just took a chalk pencil and traced my lines so it will be much easier now when I'm at the machine. But that is something you want to remember. When you do your straight stitching around a design, make sure you use a contrast thread in your bobbin. I have selected a very narrow zigzag. I could do a straight stitch, but the zigzag will add just a little bit more thread on the right side. When I get started, I'm going to lower the needle into the fabric and raise the needle.
And you're using your foot control to do that, right?
Yes, I am. I love
taking half a stitch at a time.
I love my foot control. Pull out my bobbin thread so I know where it is. Otherwise, it could get buried in that stitching on the right side. And then go ahead and just start stitching.
And it's easy to see your pattern because you have such an open space in front of the foot.
And then, of course, when I get to these points, I'm just going to use my freehand system and pivot my fabric. Now you'll notice that we really don't know what this is going to look like.
Well, that's part of the fun. You have to wait till you turn it over to see what you did.
It is part of the fun. Should we look at it?
Sure. Oh, it looks great.
So there you have that design that's now highlighted with a pretty thread.
Mm-hmm. Nina, did you do these two with the free motion technique?
This one, yes. And there's a lot of fill-in. We don't have to just outline, but we can fill areas in, like on this one.
Mm-hmm.
This one was actually done in my embroidery module.
So you put the decorative thread in the bobbin of the embroidery module.
Correct.
Just the same
and
way.
Work from the back side of the fabric, so you can use these decorative threads in embroidery.
Now the hardest part of that would be to remember to hoop upside down.
Correct. It's an upside down sewing work. Mm-hmm. For more information about bobbin play, visit your local Bernina dealer today.